Hey listeners, this episode is brought to you by EF World Journeys. Today's travelers want more from their vacation. That's why more people are turning to travel professionals to help them explore the world with confidence. For nearly 35 years, EF World Journeys has been the go to guided experiential travel company for leisure travelers who want to learn more about people, places, and cultures around the world. Its brands EF Ultimate Break, EF Go Ahead Tours, and EF Adventures serve everyone from Gen Z to baby boomers and help tens of thousands of US and Canadian travelers every year explore 400 bucket list destinations. EF World Journeys is one of North America's biggest guided group tour companies, and its expert planned immersive itineraries focus on the big moments and little things that make travel and meeting new people so rewarding. It's experiential travel that goes deeper, where every journey builds a connection, inspires wellness, and fuels a lifelong love of learning. EF World Journeys, guided by experts, driven by curiosity. To learn more, go to efworldjourneys.com.
Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Skift Travel Podcast. This is your non-regular summer host, Rafat Ali, CEO and founder of Skift. This is my last in the summer series of interviewing people in the travel industry that I've known for a while or that are doing interesting things or doing interesting things in the travel industry. We've of course known Omri for a long time. Omri has been featured on Skift, I guess, multiple times in many different stories. Omri Morgenshtern, the CEO of Agoda. I'm sure most of you know this, but Agoda is part of Booking Holdings, is the largest OTA online travel company in Asia, has Asia roots, is actually celebrating 20 years this year, which is quite long in internet and digital terms. I met him, we did Skift Forum Asia in Bangkok 3 months ago, and I met him and had a very interesting chat on AI and how he's personally very hands-on with everything that Agoda is building around that, and that the role of Agoda in the larger booking family and how he sees the future. So I figured we'll get him on this podcast and talk about that in a more in-depth form. So thank you, Omri, for being here.
Thank you for having me. It's always fun.
It's 20 years of Agoda. You've been Agoda 11 years. You've been or change, right?
11, yeah.
Yeah. And how many years as CEO?
3 and change.
3 and change. So what? Well, actually, let me start with the word change. What has changed in those 3 years? Well, 3 years basically means ChatGPT launched about the same time you became the CEO.
A little bit not.
Or
a little bit later.
Yeah.
Wow, a lot of from a technology perspective, everything changed. And I never thought about my legacy in Agoda, but if I had to choose one, I think I started it when I joined, not when I became CEO. And that's a lot about tech and kind of taking this. The company was techy when I joined, but we made it a lot more, me and obviously many other people, a lot more techy. And I think the last 3 years, especially with Gen AI and a lot of other things, are the sort of the peak, if you'd like. It's the maximum, and hopefully the local maximum, right? There are more maximums in the futures, but it's about tech, AI, those types of things.
So let's start from the top. What the geographic spread of Agoda in terms of the customer base, because the inventory is worldwide, correct?
That's correct.
And the geographic spread, do you start and stop somewhere? Is there, because you're part of the Booking holding family, Booking has obviously other brands as well, Booking.com being the biggest of them. How do you look at your geographic spread?
So from a consumer basis, it's predominantly APAC, even though we have customers booking also from Europe and Americas, but
as I just told you before the recording, I just did in Bangkok, yeah.
But our mission is very, very clear from a consumer perspective, and that's the Asian customer.
And anybody who's coming to Asia, because you would have better inventory and rates than anybody I have seen personally, really, that you have the better rates than anybody else.
So, thank you for that. But there are other companies with, I can mention one called, say if you're coming from Europe, there's a company called Booking.com. They have great rates. From the US, I can mention a few, Priceline.com. So there are more companies with great inventory, but yes, I think Agoda has great inventory.
So I know Southeast Asia, obviously, historically, that's where the company started. That's huge for you. About 20% market share overall is, I read somewhere. Is that correct?
Oh, we don't talk market shares, but we're doing well.
You're the largest in that sense. And then India has become an important market for you. You visited India many times. I see you there. You came and spoke at our conference last year. And Middle East, is Middle East a purview for you?
I think first of all, APAC in general, North Asia you didn't mention, but it's also very, very,
Very strong.
very, very strong for us.
Japan, yeah.
Japan, Korea, Taiwan, even certain Chinese routes are also very interesting for us.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, as you mentioned, we have customers from the Middle East, Europe, etc. But the line usually goes in India.
And so at the board level at Booking Holdings, like between you, Booking, and I mean, Kayak is meta search, but those are the two main brands that consumers would know. And Laura, who's your
Open Table in the US consumer for sure will know. Price Hand Up.
Yeah, Open Table on the restaurant side, correct? Yeah. What's the push and pull? Is there a push and pull, and is that a healthy push and pull between the brands?
So I think it's a first of all, I think it's very healthy, but I actually think, and me and you we discussed it before, is I think my experience in Booking Holdings, there is a point in time before Glenn Fogel became CEO and a point in time after Glenn Fogel became CEO, and it's been quite a few years. Hopefully many more. He seems to be turning younger with time.
He does definitely more buff, and we can have that discussion when he comes on stage at the Global Forum this year. But yeah.
So before Glenn was CEO, generally speaking, my experience was that the brands were almost very light touch, completely independent. I'm not talking about tech. Tech were still very independent, but from a strategy perspective, not almost competing. And I think when Glenn became CEO, one of the things that was very important for him is to have a strategy. So sort of to have clear lanes of operations and clear rules of engagement, and where do we operate, where we don't operate, and how do we empower one another. And I think, it's not an easy change, but it's been enough years that became such a reality for us that I feel, and actually more and more when we go to the board, it's like we stand together as a group, which is remarkable for me. And we support one another, and sometimes we know something that somebody else doesn't know about. Say, if there's a question in Asia and Booking.com is asked, I can jump in, and vice versa. So I would say it's for me it's very healthy, and it feels like a team.
So if you're negotiating, if Booking is negotiating, say, an inventory deal with Marriott, I'm just making it up, would it do across its holding, or would Agoda do a separate deal and Booking Holdings will do a separate deal?
So by and large, our operations are completely, so the strategy is unified, but the operations are not. So no, Agoda will negotiate separately with Marriott or with independent. Very, very few things in our operations are combined.
And in terms of tech, one of the things, and I trolled the LinkedIn job listings a lot for major companies, and you come up a lot, specifically around AI hires recently, just in the last few months that I've been trolling some of these LinkedIn listings. And it's interesting, any city, I'm looking at major countries because LinkedIn only allows, they have AI search, which is only active in a few countries, not all over the world. And it's interesting that what your team is advertising for is different tech roles and AI roles of people you are willing to relocate to Bangkok, which I want to talk about a little bit about the talent. But it will show up in other countries. So you're trying to attract people from all over to come to Bangkok. Bangkok, not a traditional sort of tech hub. And so what's the strategy there as you're thinking about sort of the next phase of talent coming into Agoda?
So I think that's one of the secret sauces for us here, and it took us a while to develop that. But you're right. When Agoda started here and in this journey to be a tech company, one of the things that you learn is that you have in Thailand and in Bangkok, and initially it was only Bangkok. Now we have centers in other places, say India. But you learn that you have a lot of smart people, but very little experience, especially in fields that are super sophisticated. That the people with experience will come from Silicon Valley, will come from the US, certain places in Europe, certain tech hubs. And one of the problems we had is how do you build a world-class tech company, in a place that doesn't have clearly has smart people but not the experience. And where we landed, and this is in our journey in the last 10 years, or slightly even more than that, is that we're almost split half and half. So we will bring half of our team will be expats that we're really here. Canada is a great place to live in. For many reasons we can talk about, but we can attract great talent here. We also, also pay what's necessary to get the talent in. Super important. No talent, no tech, right? And at the same time, the locals, we typically tend to bring them very, very young, usually out of the university. We almost don't need them to have any experience. We're after the CPU, we're after the smartest graduates. And then you take the folks that you bring from outside and you pair them with those people that are very smart. You put them together and then magic starts happening. And by the way, it has huge merit also to the country, because the people that go through Agoda, obviously we want them to stay the locals, or we want them to stay forever. But some of them leave and they go and start their own company. So they go and work in that companies and bring that knowledge. So there's a great
legacy of your former Agoda.
Exactly. But that mixture of and that's not new from so you see it with AI, because this is the thing that we're looking for desperately, right? But has been the case with data centers. So we run on data centers as an example. So if you were looking 9 years ago, it was data center technology, and every year it's something else that you'd find. It's always the same. It's kind of maintaining this 50-50, and that allows us to feel, we always say internally, we say Silicon Valley in Bangkok. And that's what there's so many people coming from Silicon Valley and helping us make in Bangkok.
So since we're now on the talent questions, and you mentioned these entry level, you're hiring them for the CPU, which is, by the way, a great line. One of the things that the conventional wisdom now everybody's saying is the entry level jobs are the ones that are going to be hurt the most with AI. What's your sense of what's happening at Agoda, and what are you seeing?
So it depends on the role, but on engineering specifically, but I'll say we definitely see the way they work changing dramatically. Everybody works, but definitely the entry level people, the tools that they use, how they do the work. It's, compare it now versus a year before, it's like unbelievably different. Is it at a level that even saying that it saves time is not a trivial statement at this point in time? I think it will, but it's not. It saves it can write a lot of your code by itself. Like a very, very significant portion of the code is written by AI, but you need to review that code, right? So if you're writing like a small, I guess what I'll say is there's a difference if you are an entry-level developer developing a small app for your home use. There's a difference if you are an entry-level developer in an enterprise,
which already has a huge code base and all kinds of stuff.
That you need to make sure, you need to review every line of code. You need to make sure that you don't introduce a bug that will cost millions of dollars. Make sure that you're not introducing a security vulnerability. Right? So you cannot just let the AI write 10,000 lines of code and just push it in. It doesn't work like that. So when you compare all of those, it's a huge and helpful tool that everybody uses, writes a lot of code, but it's still, I won't discount the engineers at this point in time.
And you and I discussed a little bit of this when we met in Bangkok, like the cliche of 5x developer or 10x developer. Is it here now, or as you said, efficiency, yes, but is that part happening, and is it looks like it's changing very fast. GPT-5 just launched, and apparently it's really, really good at the coding part, and Claude, etc., are very focused on coding.
Yeah, so I think if you measure the amount of the lines of code that it writes, then it will give you the illusion that that's the case, right? I think because it definitely writes a very significant amount of the lines of code. Certainly code like testing and sort of not the main code, but peripheral code. But I think if you use, we typically, that's not how you measure dev efficiency. You need to have a different, because devs are not only writing code, they're also pushing changes to the repository. They're also code reviewing. They're also running tests. They're doing a lot of things. They're in meeting. So you need different measurements that cut across for the efficiency. We definitely see efficiency gains, but not. I don't think we see a 5x or 10x now. Do I believe or anything at that? If you use that measurement, like a dev efficiency measurement, not the amount of code. Now, do I believe it's coming? Absolutely. But I think in the enterprise context, it's more, it's going to take a little bit longer than people think.
I was reading this thing that you posted on your LinkedIn a few months ago on, there was a case study on MIT Sloan Review about the one KPI for, I think, your business development team. But I want to focus, since we're talking about tech, is the KPI, as you're thinking about, because a huge part of your team, I'm sure, is tech. What percent of the team is tech, like quote unquote tech?
It's going to be a significant percent. It's going to be, I want to say about 25%, and might be mindful that a lot of our business customer support because of the size of the operation.
Right. Yeah. Size of the operation. Yeah, 8,000 people or so. I read somewhere. Yeah. And so, is the KPI of how you're measuring, I guess, not the efficiency, but whatever KPI you're using to measure performance. Efficiency is not the word, is what I was saying. Performance of developers, is that changing rapidly?
So the high level KPIs, no. The high level KPIs are very standard. It's things like bug density. So when a developer develops, how many mistakes that are escaping and reaching a consumer or a partner they make. It's about speed. How many features there's a trade-off. You need to understand there's a trade-off. You can develop a lot of things very quickly, but then introduce a lot of bugs. So you need to make the
We
right
just
balance
talked about.
between them. Security. So the set of KPIs, the high-level measurements are not changing that much. I think they're generic. What changes is our ability to overachieve versus the KPIs. So if you look at our velocity, yes, ever since we're using AI tools, we have expedited our gains in velocity. But I have to say, even before Gen AI, we would always improve the velocity. Just Gen AI allows us to improve it more or faster.
More faster. Yeah. And have you figured out, so the LLMs, the general purpose LLMs versus, I don't know, Agoda LLM? Is there an Agoda LLM?
Of course, there are the multiple versions of everything. Tries their from fine-tuning the existing LLMs, or trying to run on a bunch of GPUs their own code. And that's what I like. That we like it. We like this because we think. By the way, we didn't talk about it. We think that AI needs to be top down, but also bottom up. Like you're doing it well is if everybody's playing, then you don't want to take away their ability to do that, because who knows what they're going to find. But I think at this point in time, there's a lot of promise in the Agoda LLMs, but in reality, it's very few use cases, and the big LLMs, there are many of them, different formats, and many of them allow you to fine tune. So for the majority of the use case, we see that we can use the public LLMs very effectively. But I would predict that as AI matures, we'll find more and more use cases where we need to fine tune and use our own.
Use our own. And again, the conventional wisdom is that customer service is the first one to get affected across a lot of companies. Is that what you're seeing from just a consumer-facing perspective?
Yeah, we're definitely seeing it's not consumer-facing. It's also it's all consumer-facing eventually, but it's how long it takes them to do something.
Right. Helping the actual customer service reps.
Trivial examples would be translations. Like if you have say you're doing chat and you have an English-speaking customer service agent that tries to help a Japanese person, that's not something that you could do before Gen AI. With Gen AI, because what Gen AI allows you to do is not only translation, it's the tone, it's you can inject the personality around the person. All of a sudden, you get all sorts of efficiencies so it's not only necessarily that people talk to AI, that happens as well, but it's also a lot of efficiencies and time saving. Summarize.
Yeah, that's
for
true.
you and all of those things. But yeah, absolutely, we're saying tremendous improvements in our customer support, in the efficiency, but also not less important in the consumer experience, because we measure how long it takes us to resolve a case. It's one of our biggest measurements of success, right? Because when consumer on the line or in chat, you want it done, right? And it's
Yeah.
and we see that getting expedited through the use of AI.
Let me ask you this question. Why do OTAs have such a bad reputation of customer service?
It's a good question. I think my guess. I don't know. Yeah, I read a lot of emails from customers that are unhappy about the service. Like if you're
And they're vocal and use social media, they're vocal. Anytime you post on Twitter, if you do ever, like you'll get 10 people saying, I missed my flight, Agoda, whatever, that type of
that's why
stuff.
I'm not posting on Twitter. But
Yeah.
but they find a way to you
Well,
anyhow, and it's fair. It's fair. I think travel is an event that's my sense. We're very passionate about travel, and it's a big ticket item for more leisure travel. It's a big ticket item for people. They plan
uh-huh.
for it, they aspire, they wait for it, and when something goes wrong, they take it very, very hard. It's like your dreams
And
are broken, so they're very emotional, and on the one hand, we need to deal with those and talk to them and try to make it better. On the other hand, and I think we're very lucky that we operate in an industry that people are so passionate about, that there are so many emotions.
yeah. And I guess it's also a factor that you're intermediary versus not the owner. And so there's confusion on the consumer side. Um, I guess, is there still confusion on the consumer side of intermediary versus, like, if something happens at the Marriott end, it's not your fault type stuff?
I don't. I think there's a component of that. I actually think, I don't know. You can ask the CEO of Marriott if he gets a lot of complaints. I'm sure he does as well. So I'm not sure. I'm
Yeah.
not sure
Oh, he
anybody
does. Yeah, I'm
anybody
sure.
anybody escapes that. It doesn't matter if you're an OTA or a hotel. It doesn't matter, because it's the
Yeah.
same passion.
Yeah.
I think it's a combination of a lot of things. Like there are things. For instance, we get a lot of complaints around cancellations because people don't always understand the cancellation policies, or they cancel after the policy expired and they still want their money back. And so I think that's one of our biggest bucket of complaints, right? It's the
Mm,
same for anybody in the industry. I think there are certain things that
yeah.
are inherent in the experience.
Inherent to cause confusion. Yeah. Um, uh, in terms of how you are using AI yourself, how has that changed your role? I don't know, in the last 2 years, for instance, or even just this year. Is it changing? Are you using it?
I'd say, first of all, it changed my life, my personal life, much more than it changed my role. The way it changed my role, I just consume a lot of data through AI. So, when you're a CEO, you spend, and you know that, you spend tons of time reading and researching and asking. And you have strategy teams doing research for you and trying to figure out what's happening. You have a lot of questions in your head. uh, I start all those questions with AI, and then when the question is big enough and I don't trust AI, or if I don't like the answer that I'm getting, then I go to the. So my strategy team is getting bigger questions. When even things like when I do a town hall, and I'm thinking about I'm looking an hour before the town hall. I'm looking at the questions, and I'm asking myself,
Talking points, yeah.
yeah, how should I approach it? Then sometimes I consult, and I use it as a coach.
Yeah, I use it a lot. Yeah. I just moved to Claude, by the way, which, I knew from the start. It's just that I never used it heavily. But now I'm liking Claude a lot more than ChatGPT, because ChatGPT is very verbose and like just a lot of words. And Claude is more like to the point. And as CEOs, as you know, our job is to be like effective to the point. So I'm liking, I don't know what your personal favorite is, but I'm using Claude a lot more.
I'm jumping between DeepSeek and ChatGPT.
Oh, DeepSeek, you're in that world. Yeah,
Well,
of course. Yeah.
because it's fascinating to see what's happening there and how it's different, and the architecture is so different. So it's really interesting for me to see. It's really good, by the way. But
Uh-huh.
my main go-to is still ChatGPT. Uh,
Yeah.
and like I was saying, it manages, put aside only work, it manages my health, my activities, my kids' activities, it gives me parenting advice. It's like my best friend.
Yeah, yeah. I use it to I sometimes on the weekends I take a photo of my fridge, what's in the fridge and the pantry, like two photos. and I said, I want to make something for my kids, it actually does a good job of recognizing and coming up with some creative recipes. And I've made a few of them. And I always say, make it easy. So they like give me the easy ones,
So
which is,
we're seeing, and it's amazing that we lived through that.
yeah,
It's
it
always
is amazing.
in 10 years, people will say it's amazing to live through that, and on and on and on.
Yeah.
But it's a revolution of experience, of consumer experience.
Yeah. Well, let's continue on on the business side. So on the consumer front, trip planning sort of came early in terms of AI. A bunch of folks launched. You guys, what's your is? Do you have a name for your bot?
We don't name the bot. It's
Yeah, yeah.
but we
Just
think
Agoda.
eventually Agoda, yeah.
What are the consumer applications? So trip planning is there?
Trip planning. I don't think is live yet on our platform, but it's going to be there.
What about search? Because I guess you saw Google Flights launch the AI search yesterday,
Yes.
which is interesting. And obviously, it's easier said than done. There's a lot of technicalities behind it. We know this because we replaced our search in a small way. We know this because we replaced our search with AI search on our site, and we have to continue to refine it all the time. Um, when is that coming? Or is it a given that it will all be sort of AI search?
I don't think it's a given that it's all going to be AI search. I think the way we think about it, in two folds, I guess. Fold number one is what places in the user experience can AI solve real problems, right? Because we all think about this use case. I am traveling with two kids and I don't want to stay there. But the reality is that the vast majority of the use cases are not those use cases. When you look at so that's very nice for demo. Everybody likes them in a demo, but it's not the book here that I experience, right? So yeah, I'm not saying that AI search is not important. It's important, but there are use cases that are important. For instance, all sorts of in the world of filtering, in the words of asking questions about a property, in the world of trying to understand why your card wasn't charged or didn't succeed. So those are very very specific use cases where you can allow for to ask a question or reflect things better. That's certain there. That's taking the funnel and then injecting AI
Uh-huh.
in places where you get customer support. By the way, is another good example where AI can solve
Right.
things for you much faster. So taking what we have now and injecting AI in a way that improves the conversion, makes your life easier, makes you happier. All right, that's one. I think the second layer is towards what I refer to as I guess the way I think about it is Gen AI made it easy for every company to become a search engine. Becoming a real search engine that knows that and like a full pledge that has a lot of data. It can ask you for data, more data, right? And that's another layer that is coming on top. I think Trip Planner is a small piece of it, but it's small. I think where you end up is you have this travel concierge that is your best friend that I don't know if it has a name or you name it. But that's the person that and it will ask you more. It wants to know how many kids you have and what do they like to eat and what type of hotels did you like and why. It wants to ask you questions that are deeper than what we can figure out. We look, all our interfaces are machine learning, but there's a limit to what we can ask. We cannot ask you certain things that say today ChatGPT can ask, right? But I think it's the day in which we start asking you all these questions and start developing much deeper relationships with you are coming in the next month, and that's the layer that sits on top that I think is super interesting. And Glenn we talk about the connected trip a lot. I think this is the opportunity for the connected trip because here's what I think is important. Put aside the fact that you need to be able to operate all those services, but that I think is given that we know how to do. Here's where it's challenging. What we need to do is to be not. If you look at all the AI services today, they tend to be reactive. So you go and you ask a question and they give you an answer. It's very interesting. If you look at what ChatGPT and many others do, they always end with a question, right?
Correct. As a way for you. I mean, I'm just looking at it as a product person of like, oh, they're asking you to use themselves more.
Use themselves more and get more data that will help will help them give better
Correct.
service, right? So that's
Yeah.
being
Yeah. Yeah.
proactive, but that's proactive in a chat. You engage with. I'm looking at a world that ideally I can be proactive outside of a chat. So imagine that you're in the destination now. You booked with Agoda, and then we tell you, hey, I know that your kid likes pizza. There's a great pizza place in town, and I can book it for you because I work with I integrate with Open Table. I can book it for you now. And typically, if you don't book after 5 p.m., you won't have a room. Would you like me to do that for you? And that comes out of the blue, right? Now, in order for me to have you look at it, you didn't ask me anything, right? I
Right.
need you to be willing to get proactive messages from me and respond. For that, I need to do two things. I need to be relevant. So if I send you notifications on things that are not interesting, you'll stop listening. Two, you need to trust
Right.
me. You need to have a deep relationship with me that is not a reactive relationship. And that's where the gain is for me. And we're all doing it, just to be clear.
Yeah.
That's where the connected trip is going to come from.
So, so I have a large existential question in terms of you said notifications. Do they come from Agoda, or do they come from a consumer player now like ChatGPT? If ChatGPT is the one solution for everything, kind of like what the question we've always asked for 20 years: will Google become the OTA? And turns out they
You
didn't.
didn't. Right. So I think
So yeah,
so in reality, it can come from both. There's no reason why it doesn't come from both. The question is who's going to do a better job for a person that travels. And I think you and me, we work in travel. We know the complexity of the downstream. We talked about the customer support. We talked about all the things that happen to you, and also all the specific things that you need to know for travel. So it's my very strong belief that it's hard, and Google is the proof. It's hard for a horizontal platform to provide you that service to the level that I think at least where the OTAs will reach. They'll definitely try, as Google tried. I personally believe, obviously nobody knows, I personally believe that the outcome will be very similar.
and so let's move to an adjacency which you've talked about, and this may help OTAs continue relevance, which is you become a bank. So the fintech part is very interesting in travel, that I think many people underestimate the actual mechanics of how complex it is as a global company with global currencies and remittances and whatever else that half of stuff I probably don't even know 13 years in, from like a fintech perspective. So give your sense of how you're thinking about sort of the financial part, and how I think you mentioned some interview, like why would you give Agoda $5,000 to spend on travel? Like I forget the exact analogy you were using. So yeah, and I know booking itself is very, very focused on it as a larger company.
I think there's a trend. It's a long-term trend. It's not something that will resolve itself in 6 months. But I think there's a trend of financial services and travel sort of getting together. By the way, both directions. I'm sure.
Yes. Banks are becoming very active in travel.
Exactly. But in the US, a lot of the travel is happening on banks. And by the way, many of the OTAs, Agoda supplies a lot of those services. These are B2B
Yes. Right. That's
of
true.
the house,
Yeah.
right?
B2B services. Yeah. You own Rocket Travel, which is your B2B arm, correct?
That's correct. And
Yeah.
and vice versa, right? On travel. So what people don't recognize is within a travel company, you really have bank technology behind the scenes. The difference between a bank and a travel company is the travel company provides all the services to itself. It doesn't go externally. Where the bank provides the services externally. And as you start providing the services externally, you're in regulated realm, and it's a different game, right? Obviously, it makes everything, not from a tech perspective, but from an operation, makes it more complicated. But all of us are in processes of getting regulated and getting licenses, and all the travel companies, right? So once that happens, it opens up our ability to provide, and more, it opens up our ability to provide those services that we already own. We already have the tech to provide them to consumers. And I think travel is such a big, especially because, like we said, it's a big ticket item, which means that you need all sorts of services. You need potentially loans. You want a better price makes a huge difference, and the best people to give you the best price are travel companies, right? So I think if you look fast forward 10 years, I think, and taking and like a long period of time on purpose, I think you'll find that a lot of those services are given from, from the credit card that you use, or whatever payment method that you're going to use when you go cross border is going to be the cheapest and the most cost effective, because a travel company gave you that through the, where you save. Because if you save for travel, then the best interest equivalent comes from the travel company. It's where loan, if you need a loan, with the best, because we know so much about you, and on and on and on and on. And that trajectory leads to us providing a lot of financial services. By the way, not only to consumers, also to partners, because they need financial services as well.
Yeah. I mean, that's probably at times even more complex than the consumer part.
Yeah, and we know them very well. We know their operations, and we cater for that. So I think it's a huge opportunity. I think it's one that you pursue very carefully, because you got to do it right, because it's because of the regulated nature. So, and got to do it perfect. There's no mistakes. No, has to be right from the get go. But it's happening, and like I said, both directions.
Remind me, do you have an loyalty thing?
Yes.
Do you have a loyalty program? Like, I know Booking is called Genius. What is yours
VIP.
called?
I got a VIP.
Okay. And so what's your sense of how that's evolving, like, as you stand here 25? Like, has it changed a lot in the last 2-3 years? Is it going to change a lot in the next 2-3 years?
So I don't. It hasn't changed that much in the last. So here's what we believe about loyalty policy. First of all, if you ask me, the sentence I always say is that the best loyalty program is price.
Yeah, 100%.
If you can trust me to give you a great price,
yes,
that's if I can live to that expectation in travel.
Price, and I know that if I run into trouble, Agoda is a known brand, and this is not like a scam.
Exactly. Of course, and you need to have the service, right? So that's number one. If you can do that, you are 85% there. That's my belief. Then from there, it needs to be simple. What you see a lot of times is that brands have very complicated offers with all sorts of. You get a list of 100 things that you can get. You don't even know half of them. So us, it's very simple. It's like, the higher the tier is, you can guess, like Genius, the better the price becomes. Super easy to explain, and we believe in that. What changed is not the definition of the program; it's the penetration of the program and the amount of perks that we can add. So you can late check-in. So we're all the time adding to our customers more and more things. But the fundamental is very, very simple. You're getting a better price, and we are strong believers in that. Now, I don't know if you asked because of fintech, but I think all of those components are creating more loyalty. So imagine that you're saving for your trip with me, obviously, and you're getting as a result even deeper tier of loyalty. Obviously, that's much more sticky, and on and on. So I look. I don't know if that's why you asked, but I look at the financial services as the next layer in loyalty.
Yeah. And in a very competitive market like Bangkok, for instance, tons of hotels, tons of players like you selling these. How much of a price advantage can Agoda have, and what is that based on? Just by the sheer power relationships that you have with these suppliers? Like, what when I think,
it's a combination of a few things. It's yes. First of all, the share of the operation and the share of the relationship with the supplier. That's one. The second thing is the multi-sourcing of rates, because the rates can come. We see it, by the way, not everywhere in travel. It's not a perfect system that everything is well defined. It's especially in Asia. It's sometimes a jungle out there, because every hotel works with tons of other suppliers. So every time you add another supplier, we are saying, "Oh, come on, we already get them through other supplier. It's not going to add anything," and yet it adds. And the third component that is not less interesting or important is the visibility, because you have to know that for people coming from the US to Phuket, or I don't know, from LA to Phuket, then the tribe, we talked about the tribe, has a better rate than what you have. So you can even go and talk to the property and say, "Hey, what's going on? Can I get a promotion?" So just the visibility. And as you can imagine, it's very, very difficult, because origins, destinations, global operations, cities, multiple by the amount of hotels, times a day, amount of customers. It's like a crazy operation to just get the data, prioritize it, act on the data. So you need all of that in order to get great prices for your consumers.
Very naive question. Has the real-time inventory issue been solved?
So what do you mean by real-time inventory?
Meaning, like, if I'm booking, I know if you are booking, there's availability, and you have real-time window into tribes occupancy.
I'd say in most of that if you book a home, sometimes there's book on request and all sorts of, so that's a relatively small segment, but there's still that segment. Not so much on hotels anymore, but more on homes. On hotels, 99.99% of the times that's solved. Everyone, and then because you have a lot of systems connected, there are mistakes, right? So even if you go to the hotel direct website and you book, sometimes between the PMS, because the tech is so complex, between the PMS and the website that probably different people provided, there is some sort of mistake, and
There's always some glitch
yeah,
at times that happens. Yeah,
mistake happening less than one of 1,000, 1 over 10,000. This is the range nowadays.
Mhm. In terms of, you mentioned short-term rentals, how much of that is part of the inventory for Agoda, or is that a big business for Agoda?
So it's not as big in Asia as it is, I think, in certainly in the US, but also in Europe. But it's a significant portion of our business, and it's definitely a growing portion of our business.
And this is where you're also building direct relationships with you're trying to bring this inventory online.
Of course. And it's
um,
very, it feels on that inventory, Asia is following. So it's like the US and then Europe and then Asia is following. So gradually, you also get you get the balkanization of supply that you see in the US and more professionals and companies. So that also happens. But you have the same story with long tail and professional. And so we're definitely operating on all of those.
well, let me ask you another question. And AI and sort of reviews. Now everybody is doing a very basic thing, which is summarizing the reviews using Gen AI. It's not a competitive advantage anymore. What do you see the next? Like, do you think about how to improve reviews or capabilities or summarization? Because I feel like at this point, because 20-25 years into internet history, there's so many reviews on many properties that it's just very hard to now even grasp what's current, what's not. Like, what are the various ways in which reviews evolve?
I think, first of all, there are a lot of small things that Gen AI helps us. Not only summarizing the reviews, also helping write the reviews. So, with Gen AI, increases
Yeah.
amount of reviews that we get because we make the friction of writing a review much easier. And then as a result,
So have you seen the volume go up?
yes, we've seen that with the right features, you see more reviews. You see that you get more reviews. It's very simple. You take friction away, more conversion happens. That's internet for you. But
Yeah.
but what I see that is interesting. I don't know if it's reviews per se, but what I think reviews come to do something bigger, and that's give you a reason to believe or explanation why this property and not that property, what's good, what's bad. And I think traditional, and there I see Gen AI helping a lot. There I see change where, so sort of, if you look at our what we call the property page in Agoda, is we see all the rooms in a property, and you ask the question, why this room and not the other two? You see the price, and this is free cancellation, this is not free cancellation. There are also, but it's overwhelming and a lot of details, and it's and it's sometimes hard to understand why this rooms cost this thing and this cost. So I think that's one instance, is an area that I see changing a lot, with AI telling you, look, choose, like you said, the CEO, it's summarized, choose this because of that, choose that because of that. That's an example. Same for the hotels themselves. You see a lot of hotels, and we say, this is the rate, this is the, but when, imagine, I know more about you. Imagine I can tell you, because your kid likes video games, this hotel has video games, right? And I think those are the things that are starting to happen. So it's what I call the two elements here. One is just to summarize the key points that you need to know, but it's also very hyper, what we call hyper personalized. Wine can start knowing things about you that typically wouldn't give me in the interface, and then I can start using them back in order to explain to you why you want that and not that, right? And I think that's interesting and happening.
Yeah, one of the things I look, and I'm just thinking as you're talking, like, what do I look for in a hotel beyond the basics, like the room is good and all the stuff that anybody would look for. And the word I'm thinking is vibe, but that's not even the right word. It's like, is it laid back? Especially if I'm going for not even leisure, but like even in Vegas, for instance, is it more laid back, so boutique-y laid back, and I got to figure out how do I how do I sense that based on the reviews or your descriptions or photos from users. It's quite, yeah, it's interesting.
So, so, so I think that's a perfect example because you look at the filters and search and sorts and all the things. We cannot build all the. It gets very very quickly. It gets very fragmented. So the big ticket items we have, and we have tons of them, right? But a vibe is an example. Somebody can say, okay, I'll build a vibe because there are enough people that, and I'll build a vibe filter and I'll collect all the data. But then my wife wants it to be new and the pool to be something. Everybody very quickly it becomes. But what we're missing today, and that's gonna be solved for, I'm telling you, for all OTAs. Just asking Rafat, what are you exactly what you said now? What
Yeah,
is
yeah,
looking for in a hotel usually? And you tell me the vibe, and if you tell me the vibe, I don't need to develop a vibe technology anymore.
yeah. You can just match it.
I
Yeah,
can
yeah, yeah.
I can try to understand what's the vibe in the photos, and I can even try to tell you, hey, how do you find this vibe? Is that your vibe? So now I have a conversation with you that is much deeper than what I had before, and
Yeah.
that's exactly what I'm talking about. Just being much better at explaining to you, and that's a conversation, and that's why I'm saying it's proactive. It's asking you the question to get the data that is relevant for you. Why is that this room and not the other room?
Um, this was not meant to be just an AI conversation, but it's becoming an AI heavy, so might as well lean into it. We're going to wrap up because I know we've been chatting for a while. Voice as an interface. Are you beginning like just voice? I guess like one of the things initially, remember, like when Alexa came out, we thought voice would be an interface. Didn't happen. Um, Now how I use ChatGPT or Claude, etc., is I voice, but then I'm not chatting with the chatbot. What I'm doing is voice, and you click and it transcribes, and it then actually still sends as a text. It's just that the input becomes much faster versus a voice chat. I don't know what technical term for those two separate things, but they're same voice. How do you think about non-text interfaces, or do you think about non-text interfaces?
I think eventually, you'll have both. I think there are still a lot of problems with the voice interfaces. Even in, for instance, I'll give you something that drives me nuts, is that it doesn't lock on your voice. So if I want to talk to it and I'm in a crowded environment with other
Oh
people,
yeah, yeah, it doesn't.
then and you think I can solve that with, by the way, with coding AI for them. You would think
Mm,
it would solve it, right? But it's not. It's
yeah.
a priority because but all those things will get solved. It will lock on your voice. And the way I think about the future is Jarvis from Iron Man. We talked about it, or Hair. You'll be able to. There will be multi channels for you to. That will be good. So the Jarvis will lock on your voice and will know you, and we know to differentiate between you and anybody else in your family or whatever. And it has to have a voice interface, and it doesn't matter if you're in a crowded. The same way that when I call my when I talk to my personal assistant, the question you're asking me is identical to the following question. When you talk to when you talk to your personal assistant, do you call her or do you text her? The answer is do both, depending
Yeah.
on what I need and where I am. Everything. So you'll have a text and you have a voice, and every person will use it differently, and they'll be equally good. It's not there yet, not there yet, but it's not something that I feel that is that there's a chance that the technology won't get there. The technology is there. It's just putting it together and prioritizing it in the interfaces of everybody.
Yes, fascinating. I'm a huge fan of voice in general. I use a lot of voice notes on WhatsApp, etc. I know there's some people who hate getting voice notes on WhatsApp. Um, it's not the only thing. I do text as well as voice notes, but it's kind of interesting. Let's last question. What's the most exciting market for you today that you're excited about? I know India is a big market. You, as we talked about, you visit there. It's big. It's becoming big and bigger. Agoda is actually quite a well-known brand name in India now, against the biggies that have been there for decades at this point, Make My Trip, etc. What is the most exciting market for you?
The banks that are growing very fast. It's also depending if the destination as an area. I'll give you a market that you won't think, or maybe will, but it's not the trivial one. Vietnam is very very fascinating for me.
Yeah,
I'll
it's
tell
booming tourism wise.
crazy what these guys are doing. Crazy, and it's not one. It's not one thing. It's somebody sitting there and thinking very, very carefully how to get the people, very smart people, how to get travel going on. It's in construction, it's visa, easing the visa rules. It's making, they took Phuket and say no visa at all, you can come in order to compete with Phuket. It's more negotiating airlines routes into Vietnam. It's like across the board. You can see strategy, and not like a 1 year strategy. You can see a 15-year strategy that is happening. It's remarkable to see, and their success is phenomenal. And we see from many origins in Southeast Asia, also North Asia gradually. Well, Korea was always big to Vietnam, but you start seeing it in Japan, you start seeing it in Taiwan, starting all of those places, all of those routes.
A bunch of Indians are going to Vietnam too, which was never a thing that we would have thought of, because Bangkok or Singapore, etc., was always there for Indians to go to. But Vietnam is becoming quite large too for Indians going there.
They're adding more air. When Vietnam adds an airline route, it gets filled. A month later, it's full. Just a matter of adding more, and they come. So it's remarkable. It's not. As I said, look, I'm super passionate about Japan, Korea. We can talk about Korea. We can talk about Taiwan. We can talk about India. We can talk about Australia. Each one of them is fascinating, and something interesting is happening. Vietnam is not a country people talk about a lot, and what I really appreciate is how organized and well thought this entire thing is.
The tourism strategy in general, overall travel strategy. Okay. Well, we can keep on talking. Like there's 50 topics we didn't even touch on, but that's we'll do other podcasts and actually you speaking on Skift stage as well soon. So thank you, Omri. I know it's late for you as well. So thank you for this, and I hope to see you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Skift Travel Podcast. Wherever you're listening, please make sure to subscribe. If you like what you're hearing, rate us 5 stars or leave us a positive review. It really helps get the word out about us, our podcast, and make sure that we can still continue to bring it to you free of charge every week.
If you're watching on YouTube, be sure to like and subscribe. And don't forget to hit that notification bell as well. That way you'll know every time we have a new episode.
Hey listeners, this episode is brought to you by EF World Journeys. Today's travelers want more from their vacation. That's why more people are turning to travel professionals to help them explore the world with confidence. For nearly 35 years, EF World Journeys has been the go-to guided experiential travel company for leisure travelers who want to learn more about people, places, and cultures around the world. Its brands EF Ultimate Break, EF Go Ahead Tours, and EF Adventures serve everyone from Gen Z to baby boomers and help tens of thousands of US and Canadian travelers every year explore 400 bucket list destinations. EF World Journeys is one of North America's biggest guided group tour companies, and its expert-planned immersive itineraries focus on the big moments and little things that make travel and meeting new people so rewarding. It's experiential travel that goes deeper, where every journey builds a connection, inspires wellness, and fuels a lifelong love of learning. EF World Journeys, guided by experts, driven by curiosity. To learn more, go to efworldjourneys.com.